My name is Omar Darío Cardona. I am the Director General of the Global Probabilistic Risk Assessment Project. In the framework of the United Nations Global Assessment Report 2013, a global probabilistic risk assessment for earthquakes and cyclone winds was conducted. The project was developed by the consortium comprised by the International Center for Numerical Methods in Engineering CIMNE in Barcelona, Spain, ITEC and Ingenier Limited in Bogota, Colombia, and with the participation of the National University of Mexico, UNAM. A global exposure database was generated at global level with a resolution of 5 by 5 kilometer cells with the structural system distribution and the exposed values for each of the cells. Building classes were defined according to the World Housing Encyclopedia and the World Agency of Planetary Monitoring and Earthquake Risk Reduction Statistics, considering different construction requirements and code enforcement levels, taking into account characteristics such as the country development level according to the World Bank's classification, the city complexity level, the regional hazard level for earthquakes and tropical cyclones, and the construction classes. After identifying the building classes capturing the main characteristics of the different structures, a set of vulnerability functions was developed. The vulnerability function approach accounts for a continuous representation of the expected damage and consequently losses for each building class. The vulnerability functions allow assessing damage from a probabilistic perspective, since the expected damage is defined for different intensities, such as spectral acceleration or wind speed, and also a dispersion value is associated to each point in the function. This slide presents some of the employed vulnerability functions for earthquake and different building classes. In this specific case, the mean damage radio is related to the spectral acceleration. This other slide shows some of the employed vulnerability functions for cyclone winds and different building classes. For this case, the mean damage ratio is related to the wind speed modeled in terms of 5 seconds winds gusts. At this stage, all the required inputs for probabilistic risk assessment in terms of direct losses are available. Then, a convolution process is done between the vulnerability of the exposed assets and the hazard intensities corresponding to the several scenarios that were generated. As a result, expected damage is obtained for each asset included in the global exposure database, and because of the vulnerability function approach, economical losses can be estimated. The loss associated to each hazard scenario is computed with the following probability density function. Since it is not possible to compute the probability distributions directly, a chaining of conditional probability distribution is done, where functions associated to the vulnerability and to the hazard are clearly identifiable. Following the explained procedure, loss can be expressed in terms of loss exceedance rates. These rates are computed considering all the hazard scenarios, the loss excess probabilities for each of the scenarios, and the annual frequency of occurrence of them. With this methodological approach, the main output of the risk assessment is the loss exceedance curve, from where can be derived two other state-of-the-art metrics: the average annual loss and the probable maximum loss for several return periods. This last one can be computed only if a stochastic scenario approach to represent the hazard has been selected. For the scope of this project, risk assessment was conducted at country level. The top figure presents the probable maximum loss caused by earthquakes for a 250-year return period. The loss is expressed in relative terms to the total exposed value for each country. The figure in the bottom shows exactly the same information, but now in terms of cyclone wind. In the following slides, some indicators for earthquake and cyclone wind risk are presented. The results are grouped by regions in order to rank countries and identify which of them are at higher risk levels than the others, having in mind that the same assessment methodology has been employed for all of them. These figures present the average annual loss normalized by the produced capital value of the country. That is a fraction of the national capital stock. These figures present the same average annual loss normalized again by the produced capital of each country, but now grouped not in terms of geographical location but economical levels. These other figures present again the average annual loss due to earthquake and cyclone winds, but now normalized by the gross fixed capital formation value. The figures of this slide present for earthquake and cyclone winds risk the probable maximum loss for 250-year return period normalized by the produced capital. These results are grouped by regions. Of particular importance, small island developing states have been classified in a separate manner in order to present the risk results as rankings only for this category. In this case, the average annual loss normalized again by the produced capital value is presented for each SID state and grouped by regions. As a conclusion, the following remarks can be highlighted for this project. In comparison to the GAR2013 assessment that was based on historical disaster databases, this model accounts for events that have not occurred yet, and it is based on a probabilistic methodology that allows quantifying future losses. This probabilistic approach allows taking into account uncertainties in the hazard and vulnerability of the exposed assets through the assessment process and in the final results. This has been a unique effort where a global exposure database has been created and a complete set of vulnerability functions has been used, capturing relevant characteristics for different development and complexity indexes. This is also the first global model that has measured risk in more than 200 countries using the same arithmetic and measurement rule. Even that some similarities in the assessment procedure can be found between this model and other models used by the insurance industry, the latter usually only assess risks on insured portfolios. Finally, this initiative is part of an open model that any government or user can consult. It is also based on CAPRA, an open source risk assessment platform available for everybody. Thank you.